right, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome Zach Johnson and Steve Stricker to the interview room at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Zach, can you start us off with just some thoughts about the partnership this week and your excitement to be here with Steve?
Sure. This is my second time in this format. I have played the golf course individually. I don't know how many times I was here, but I've always actually admired, would probably be the appropriate word, Pete Dye and his eye. So I know there's some collaboration there, but I don't mind the golf course at all. Pretty much got to hit every shot, I think, which is a good sign, a lot of character. As far as our partnership, yeah, I mean, well, one, we've been good friends for a very long time. Two, anytime we can hang, given the season of life we're in, I think it's probably certainly something that's worth our time, and it's just rare. So he can't get younger. I just need to go 3 more years from now to hang out more. So Champs Tour is around the corner, but always admired Steve and certainly how he goes about his work and what he does and how he does it, and to partner up with him. I don't know if we've ever really partnered in an event, have we? We haven't, which is kind of frankly bizarre considering we probably played on I don't know how many teams together, but a lot of fun. And he asked me to think about it, and I really at that point wasn't going to play for a number of reasons. And then I talked to my boss, my wife, and she said it's better if you play there than somewhere else. So I said yes, ma'am. And I wanted to play anyway, so it worked out great. I mean, we're gonna have a great time. We're gonna play some fun golf, some good golf, and enjoy the week.
Steve, some thoughts from you on your partnership as well, and just response to Zach's comments?
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. It is kind of amazing. When this partnership started just a few weeks ago, I'm like, we've never played together on some of these teams together, and our games are eerily similar. Yeah. Excited about the opportunity to hang with Zach for a while, and this week in New Orleans it's always been a fun week for me coming here, playing in these events over the years, looking back at the history of the event, and obviously the food in New Orleans, and just the way the tournament is run and the people that come out and support the event has always been nothing but first class. So it's fun to be here. It's even more fun to play with a friend like Zach, and we're looking forward to it. We got our challenges this week for sure, but one of them is length. But we're looking forward to the challenge and seeing what we can do.
And one more question before we open it up to the media. Can you just talk a little bit about what each of you bring to the table in terms of your game on this golf course? And you talk about length a little bit, but what other areas do you each kind of bring to the table that you'll lean on this week?
Well, I mean, Steve said it. Our games are pretty similar, and just from a facet of if we're going to play successful golf, it's pretty boring golf. And when you have somebody by your side that understands that and kind of sees it from that lens, I think it can be a distinct asset. What it lends itself to specifically is we need to hit fairways. We need to keep the golf course in front of us is probably the best way to put it. We understand that fairways are important, greens and regulation are important, and then we take advantage of the holes that get a little bit of loft in our hands typically, and that's bode well for. That's how we've made a living. So this golf course, if it can get bouncy, well, then it obviously narrows up and it probably helps us a little bit. But given the forecast, and we are in the bayou, getting very bouncy is probably not realistic. That being said, solid quality shots down the fairway still pay off. And so we're going to rely heavily on our short game. We're going to rely heavily on the things that we thrive in our bag, and I think we read green similar, so I think we're going to be good. We're going to be fine.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and open it up to questions. Just raise your hand, and we'll bring you a microphone. Right here in the back.
Zach, have any decisions been made in regard to whether or not you are open to picking live players for the Ryder Cup this year?
Personally, no decisions have been made. There's still too much time and a lot of time involved in that regard, and so many fluid factors involved. So as far as personally making a decision, no. I will add that when it comes to that notion, there's numerous factors, like I mentioned, but I'm going to rely heavily on, actually, looking back at my previous cups that I've been a vice captain, I'm going to rely heavily on the guys that actually make the team because it's their team. Sure. So I don't know who those 6 are going to be, obviously, but their ownership and their opinions will weigh heavily into what we decide to do.
But they haven't been ruled out necessarily as captain picks yet?
Oh, as far as rules and regulations, is that what you're alluding to?
I suppose, yeah.
So, not to get overly in the weeds of all this, but in order to garner Ryder Cup points or be eligible for PGA of America Ryder Cup points and PGA Championship points, you have to be a member of the PGA of America. Well, those individuals that have left the PGA Tour, to my knowledge, are still members of the PGA of America. There's a grace period involved there. I don't know the specifics.
Right back here.
Steve, I couldn't help but notice you have Joe on the bag this week. How did that come about?
Yeah, it's a little bit longer story than what it needs to be probably, but I asked his son first. I've had his son on my bag already this year. A delightful kid, Joe Jr. But he was working on the Korn Ferry Tour, I think, for Brandon Hagee the next couple of weeks, so he couldn't make it. And I literally said, I could ask Joe, but I don't think he's going to want to come. 56-year-old guy, washed-up tour player. Let's, do I really want to come all the way from New York down to New Orleans? So my thinking went away from Joe Sr. right away. I'm like, he's not going to want to come here. Well, I asked a bunch of people, and I told him the story already. So I asked a bunch of other guys, and nobody could make it. And so my wife was on Joe Sr. the whole time. Just ask Joe. So finally I asked him, and he's like, oh, heck yeah, I'll come. So I should have just asked him right after I asked his kid. And then now he's upset that I asked his kid first. But he's such a great guy, fun to be with, easy to be with. Obviously is very good at what he does, and we've been having fun with him so far. But that's short story made long. That's how it ended up being.
It didn't take him much. It didn't take much convincing to get him to come out.
No, and he's friends with Zach and Zach's caddy, Brian Smith, and so from his standpoint, I think he said it was an easy choice just to come here, and he's looking forward to being here, and we're having fun with him so far.
Just a 1 week thing at this point?
Yeah.
And then just on another Ryder Cup question, you're grouped with the other two, the European captain, vice captain. Any friendly wagering going on between the groups yet?
There has not been any discussion. I saw Luke briefly yesterday. We were crossing paths, but no, there hasn't been. If there was going to be one, I think it'd be pretty fun and in jest in that regard. I think, food. My guess is we could do something, maybe, dinner or bed or something like that. But looking forward to it. Luke's tremendous. Eduardo's great. Should be a lot of fun to see us old farts out there.
And Zach, I know you were kind of an early adopter of data on tour and using that to your game. Obviously, Eduardo's big into that. Luke was one of the first ones to dive into that from a PGA Tour player perspective. I just wonder your take on how you think those two guys, with having their backgrounds, will kind of impact their team.
Those two guys mean Luke and Eduardo?
And Eduardo, kind of with the data focus.
Well, even Steve can attest to this. You can look at a lot of data, chew on a lot of data, and it can be very useful, but also can be very much it's heavy. It can be a lot, cluttered. So you got to know what you're looking at, and I think the individuals that we have within Team USA kind of know what what's beneficial and what's probably not that useful. I don't know Eduardo's specifics, his algorithms and his, or even just his summaries. I don't know where he starts and where he gets to, but evidently it's warranted that Luke feels it can be an asset to the team. My guess is it probably will be. It's that balance of utilizing those data points and those simulations and those percentages and all that, and then you're just trying to combine that and trying to gel it with, all of the intangibles. And I'm not saying it because he's sitting next to me, but Steve did a really good job of that. I mean, you chew on it, you kind of, let it settle a little bit, and at some point though, you got to go with what the guys are saying, what your vice captains are saying, and what your gut says, and what you're witnessing with your eyes. So that's the beauty of the cup, right? Is you can have all that information, but at some point you got to, it's still just a sport in golf. So yeah.
Steve, I put together a piece about you and the year of review of the Champions Tour for last year, and it seemed like the last year or two has given you a lot of perspective about life and about golf. I'm just wondering, with all that in mind, what these opportunities, however few and far between they might be, what these kind of opportunities mean to you, especially having a chance to play with a longtime friend.
Yeah, after the Ryder Cup, you go from this this high, right, of being a part of that team, and then 2 months later I'm in the hospital kind of fighting for I don't want to say my life, but fighting for something. I didn't know what was going on, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, you gain this perspective and this respect for what you're doing on a weekly basis. So coming out last year, I was in a very good mindset, felt fortunate to be playing the game again. I went through a period of, probably 5 or 6 months of just trying to get back. And I feel great. I still haven't put on my weight or, my muscle probably as much as I want to, but yeah, you just gain that perspective from being in a spot where I was. So, and then, to be out here playing with Zach, like you said, a buddy of mine, and teammates and captains together, and it's just yeah, you feel fortunate and lucky. We're playing on the PGA Tour. He's playing every week out here, but for me, it's been a few years for me to be out on the tour. So very grateful to be here, to be playing with Zach, and to be playing here in New Orleans for sure.
Any other questions?
Zach, your thoughts on the venue in Rome? Obviously, it's not a course a lot of us are familiar with. Have you been there? Have you played there? Are you going to send anyone to the Italian Open to kind of see what it's like then?
Sure. No, great question. I have been there. I have played it myself. I was there this past fall and there a year to go. It's got a lot of everything. Up, down, left, right, short, long. It will be one of the hilliest golf courses we step foot on. It's hard to compare. It's all of Augusta or more. I mean, the greens aren't nearly as big or as undulating, but as far as shot making up and down, it's remarkable how many yards up and down shots play. It's just kind of built into a hill. I mean, some of the courses that I've seen out here that we play that may have some similarity would be maybe like Harding Park, or what's the one across the way, Olympic, kind of built on the bluff there and just kind of, sits on a hill. That's kind of what it reminds me of. So it'll be good. The course is made for a tournament. I mean, there's like natural amphitheaters there, and the finishing holes will be terrific. Drivable par 4, par 5 in there, a really hard par 3. So it'll be good. It'll be all we need for a Ryder Cup, and it'll be in great shape. They do a great job. What was the second part of your question? Sorry. I'm sorry.
No.
He forgot.
No, that's all right. No, just the Italian Open, and it's coming up there next
right.
month.
Jeez. That's right. Yeah, the Italian Open, obviously it's typically in the fall, but they didn't want it to be in the fall with the Cup coming up, so they moved it to 2 weeks from now. And there was a lot of deliberation on that with, actually with the Ryder Cup committee, I think, with Steve and the PGA of America, board, and Seth Law, JT and Jordan, because they're on the committee, and myself. And I'm not encouraging guys to necessarily go, and it really boils down to the fact that on the PGA Tour we have a massive event that week, and one that deserves attention and respect, and that's the Wells Fargo in Charlotte. It's an elevated event. On the PGA Tour, it is a venue that most guys enjoy. That town, and I think Johnny Harris and the people there deserve a great field. So I didn't want to necessarily step on their toes. I'm not going to discourage anybody from going. I'm not going to say that by any means. I mean, more times you can get your feet on the site, great. But I've got some plans in store that'll allow the team to, get used to a golf course that they're not familiar with.
All right, we'll let you go. Thank you for coming in today. Good luck this week.
Thanks.
Thank you.